passed his 1-year milestone of being in office. And what a difference a year makes from coming in to handling a huge COVID-19 pandemic to having trouble putting forth some of his big measures like voting rights legislation, crime bill, but also having many successes when it comes to American Rescue Plan, and even working on infrastructure. But today we're going to talk about what the pathway looks like going forward. And with me is Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. Thanks for coming on AURN. You are on the record.
I am on the record. Hey, Ebony, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity, and looking forward to having this conversation on our 1 year, 365 days.
Yeah, right? It feels like more, but it has not been.
No, it's not.
And let me just first commend you on the work that you've done. I know it's hard being in that room, dealing with that sometimes. And so just from one step to the next, thank you for being in the room. I want to jump in and first hit voting rights. The president admitted last night that some of the faults that he had when it comes to voting rights, he said, I didn't go into the community. While he hasn't had success on this, do you think that there were any miscalculations and strategies? Should the president have gone instead of on the 2, but really hit the 100 as far as putting the issue of voting rights legislation at their feet? Did we spend too much time on 2 people?
So I think the way that we have looked at this, and as we're I'm talking to your audience just to give our side of things for a second, is that and you said this, Ebony, in your intro, when we walked in, there were multiple crises happening, multiple crises. Just think about it. Businesses were shut down, schools were closed, more than 20 million people were out of work. More than 2 million of that number were women. We were losing women. They were leaving the workforce. And so the president had to get to work right away. And so American Rescue Plan, which was only passed by Democrats in Congress, we passed that. And that kind of changed the tide, if you will. It allowed us it helped us create 6.4 million jobs. We saw unemployment rate at 3.9%, which is historical, a number that we were told by experts we weren't going to get for 2 years. But the most important thing to also think about as we speak about the American public is it gave people a little bit of a breathing room, right? By putting money in pockets. There was the child tax credit, which I know you know really well, which helped decrease child poverty by about 40%. All these things that helped all communities. Because one of the things that the president talked about is when he talks about his economy is to not leave anyone behind, is to make sure as we're growing the economy that we bring everyone with us. And so those are the things that are real life changing issues that the American people were suffering with. And so he was dealing with multiple crises. He never left voting rights in the back burner. He never did that because the joint address last year, he talked about voting rights. When he went to Tulsa, Oklahoma for the 100-year anniversary of Black Wall Street, he talked about voting rights. He went to Philadelphia, talked about voting rights. And so he did it at every turn that he could. And also when he met with congressional members right here in the White House, on the agenda to talk to them about was voting rights. And so look, our democracy is at stake. We understand that. The Biden-Harris administration understands that. It is hanging by a string when you think about these pieces of legislation in 19 states that are now law that are suppressing the right to vote, making harder for people to right to vote. And so that is a real issue that we're going to continue to fight for. It is the heart and soul of our democracy, that right to vote. And we're going to, and this is something that the president, to your point, he said yesterday that he's going to continue fighting for, and he wants to make sure that the American public hears directly from him. And that is one of the things, to your point, to your question, that he felt that he should do better, which is get out there more and have that conversation.
I'm going to ask one more on voting rights. So I want to go down the list of some other things and points that you hit, because talking with, I know he's met with a lot of legacy organizations. I've met with a lot of other organizations like Georgia Voting Project and Black Lives Matter, who felt like many are saying, while the president is saying he's meeting with a lot of organizations, there are also many going hard in the paint that have been in Georgia on the ground, and some more harder activists, I don't want to say harder activists, but other activists that he really hasn't met. What is the new strategy going forward? Does he have any more tools in the arsenal that he can even put forth? And I'm not suggesting anything, but when Republicans turned on some of their own members because they voted for, the 13 members voted for infrastructure, they started threatening to strip committee seats. I mean, they do everything they can to keep their people in line. What does the president have in his arsenal quickly?
Well, I do want to say something here about what we have been able to do on the federal level, like understanding that the voting rights legislation is key. It's important. That is going to help answer a lot of the questions, a lot of the things that we're seeing across the country. But the president has used the office, the different levels of the office, and he'll continue to do that to deal with some of the issues that we have seen, right? On Selma, the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, which was back in March of last year. This is why I was saying that he put this at the front. He put this as a priority because we're talking about March of last year. He signed an executive order that did everything that we can from the federal government to make voting access more accessible, right? To do that. And instead of words to commemorate the day, he did action. He took action. He made sure that we doubled the staff and DOJ when it comes to the Civil Rights Division, because we know that there's going to be fights with these legislation. So that is critical and important as well. And we're going to continue to do that. But yeah, he's going to get out there. He's going to have the conversations with people. He's going to tell them, talk to them about what's the existential threat of our democracy right now, which is the assault on our right to vote. And so that's going to continue. That will not end.
Will we see him go before the Senate at all, do you think? And make
we announced our State of the Union, which is going to be in March. So that's going to happen. So, that's an opportunity there. I don't know what the topics are, but, that's we're asking me who's going to be in front of Congress. He will be then. He's going to continue to have meetings with senators and House members at the White House, as he's done for this past year. And when he travels, he does bring congressional members with him when he travels.
Right, he does. I want to pivot a little bit and go down a few topics quickly. The first, you mentioned unemployment when you were talking, and the administration is touting the unemployment numbers, but it's sometimes, and we've said this before, it is a different conversation when we talk with the Black community.
Yeah, absolutely.
We see those numbers double. And so absolutely, you have to give credit where credit is due on the numbers that the president has been able to produce. But what are we going to do about the number of unemployment numbers when it comes to the Black community? And so when we talk about why aren't we feeling certain things, or we have the numbers, people can say, my community is a little bit different. Maybe that's why I'm feeling some of the sentiment that I do. And even where there are openings, we still have to deal with the issue of racism. So what is the president doing to dip into that?
Yeah, you're 1,000% correct. Like, we still have work to do when you look at the numbers with the Black community. Absolutely. But that's why the president has put an economic policy plan that doesn't leave anybody behind, including Black and Brown communities. That's why he's doing the Build Back Better plan, which he's fighting very hard for, to help lower costs when you think about prescription drugs, when you think about childcare, when you think about elder care, things that really matter in our community, and universal pre-K, so that people can get back to work. All of those things are key. When I was talking about the child tax credit that was in the American Rescue Plan, that actually helped lower poverty rates for children in the Black community as well.
But now we're in a situation, he talked about BBB and pushing it forward and maybe breaking it up.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you can give us, whether it's going to be something on prescription drugs, whether he's going to do something with child tax, credit? What can we see happen on BBB? Is there a plan going forward?
So the president said this yesterday, to your point. He's going to do everything he can to pass the Build Back Better Act. He's open to doing that in chunks, which he has said before. He had said that before yesterday. because he understands the importance of getting this done. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to get this done for the American public. So we're going to have those conversations. We're going to talk to congressional members. He's going to go out there, talk directly to the American public. We are not done yet. Because you got to remember, people told the president and told us, you guys are not going to get the American Rescue Plan done. We got it done. People were like, you're not going to get the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And we got the bipartisan infrastructure bill done all in 1 year. And let's not forget that bipartisan infrastructure bill, which is now law, as we're talking about our community, is going to help clean our waters, right? Get our children and families clean water. And it's going to make sure that our communities get that broadband, that affordable internet that's so important to our families, our communities as well. Bye, Ebony. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for allowing me to talk about the 1 year anniversary. Really appreciate this time with you.
Thank you very much.